Doctor Who Flux Chapter 3 Once Upon a Time, the third episode of Series 13, is written by Chris Chibnall, starring Jodie Whittaker, Mendip Gill and John Bishop. Not to be confused with Twice Upon a Time, Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor last episode. So additional guest stars for the episode were announced on 4th of November. So this episode focuses on each character's history, including the Doctor's lost memory, as well as reintroducing the fugitive Doctor, and began to piece together how she fits in with the siege of Atropos and the origin of the Flux long ago, and it also connects the division and the creation of the planet Time to the ending of the Dark Times, linking these new revelations to the expansive mythology of the existing Doctor Who universe, establishing the concept of time as naturally chaotic and unstable. Once upon a time, Belle is on the run on the planet, and she sees blue particles. The Daleks appearing was brilliant. It felt like a jump scare, despite it doesn't have a jump scare. They didn't show up in the trailer, as I recall, which is a nice surprise. Thadia Graham plays Belle, Vinda's wife. After her planet ravaged by the Flux, she goes to planets, one of them being invaded by Daleks and another by Cybermen. I thought she's brilliant. I'm glad Vinda has got more to do, as he's a cool character. Jacob Anderson, like I said, is fantastic as Vinda. Sam Sproul plays Swarm, who's the leader of the Ravagers. The older version is played by Matthew Needham, and I thought they're fantastic. During the time when the episode was airing, some say that he could be Time Lords. I mean, there was rumours that he could have been the Decayed Master, you know, like Crispy Master in Tom Baker era, which of course it wasn't the case. Rochenda Sando plays Azure, who's also a Ravager and the sister of Swarm. She's brilliant as well. The Ravagers are from the Dark Times and worship the eternal embodiment of time. I thought they looked pretty cool. The makeup reminds me of Eldred from The Hand of Fear. Flux was supposed to be masked Ravager guards, a group of adolescent Ravagers who had to communicate telepathically because of their underdevelopment features and were slowly shedding their skins as their crystalline rock forms emerged. This was intended to show the beginning of the life cycle that ended with Old Swarm, whose shell is cracking, deformed and crumbling. Silicone masks were made and used in scenes filmed on the Temple of Atropos set, but these were cut from the final edit. So the Doctor uses a sonic screwdriver on the device while Swarm was about to snap his fingers at Yaz. Then everyone is flying through Time Storm, which looks pretty cool. So the Doctor appears in the black coat, which looks cool on her, with Dan, Yaz and Vinda, and of course the Doctor was the leader of the group. Somewhere else, Dan finds himself in Liverpool having a coffee with Diane. He sees those blue particles, and Diane was replaced by a passenger. I like the colouring of the blue particles. In Sheffield, Yaz and the Doctor sat in a police car wearing police uniform. So cool seeing the Doctor in police uniform. But of course the Doctor turns into a random woman who turns out to be one of Yaz's co-workers. So in Palace, Vinda finds himself relieving the memory of being granted an exceptional honours award at his planet's military. The officer is replaced by Yaz. This episode introduces Grand Serpent, a political figure on Vinda's planet who has the ability to get Snake out of his body before reabsorbing it, being part of the rare binary demi-species, a species composed of two living forms. I thought he was pretty terrifying and badass. Reminds me of Mara. Craig is also married to Susan Lynch, who played Angstrom in The Ghost Monument, which is cool. The Alfaria, or Alfarians, are people who at some point were sheltering descendants Alfaris extant, which is interesting. The Doctor ends up in the Temple of Atropos looking for Ravagers. She sees the fugitive Doctor in the mirror, who does not recognise her. It's great to see Joe Martin back. The 13th Doctor figures out it's her past. I love the fact that Yaz calls Dan pretty smart for the dog, and the fact that he and Covenister often replace each other. It's so funny. Mori are a group of entities kept in a state of stasis in the inner chamber of the Temple of Atropos on the planet Time, each standing on one end of their hexagonal platform and voiced by Amanda Drew. I thought they're pretty cool, and Amanda does a great job of it.
We have done as you asked, Doctor. We have returned for Mori to your time. Now you must return. You must not linger in your own time.
The name Morai clearly has roots in the mythological Morai from Greek mythology, aka the Fates in English. The Moirai are typically said to consist of three feminine figures: Clotho, who spins the thread of life; Lachesis, who measures the thread; and Atropos, who ended the lives of mortals by cutting the threads. The Temple of Atropos Borrowing from this mythology is a mechanism, is thread of time, and time herself is analogous to Atropos, a figure involved with death through the passage of time. Dan and Joseph Williamson together are so funny. There's a cool scene where Belle shoots the Cybermen. One of them is active. Love is emotion, not mission, but Belle kills that Cyberman as it is a mission. I thought the futuristic phone with the AI emoji type thing is pretty cool. It's great to see Cybermen back as always.
Convert organic life form.
Convert this.
There's a great scene where Yaz is sitting with Sonia, who's playing a video game, and switched places with the Doctor, explaining the problem to Yaz. It was so cool that the Weeping Angels appeared in the game and went out of the TV like it happened in The Time of Angels. Yaz tried to quit the game, but it didn't work, so she smashed the console, which baffled Sonia. I thought the bit where the 13th Doctor and Fugitive Doctor are replacing each other while confronting Ravagers is pretty cool. So the Doctor sees Allsock, and apparently the Flux wasn't an accident. It wasn't a naturally occurring event. It was made, it was placed because of the Doctor.
You think you can navigate all those time streams without anyone noticing?
And of course, Allsock turns out to be Tecteun, who survived Gallifrey being destroyed by the Master. She went on board of Division's space station in the void between universes. At the time, this Tecteun is played by Barbara Flynn, which I think she's fantastic. And of course we see her again in Survivors of the Flux. The Doctor didn't want to leave, but she had no choice, as everything's okay again, as she's back in the temple with Yaz, Dan, Vinder, Swarm and Azure. We see the hologram of Diane who couldn't get to Dan, which angered him, so the Doctor had to convince Dan that Diane isn't there, and she will rescue her. As everyone goes back to the TARDIS, the Doctor wanted to know what the Flux has got to do with her. Vinder gets dropped off at his home planet, which looks wrecked because of the Flux. And it's a pretty cool looking planet, with some nice colouring. There was a nice scene between Belle and Vinder as they contact each other. There's awesome cliffhanger in the TARDIS where Weeping Angels came out of Yaz's phone, and that got the Doctor, Yaz and Dan cornered.
Doctor, what's he doing? The angel has the TARDIS.
Which will lead to the next episode, Village of the Angels. When the Doctor says the Angels have the TARDIS, it is a great reference of Angels has the phone box from Blink. Always gives me the shivers. Lots of great stuff in this episode. There's great sets and atmosphere. What did you think of Once Upon a Time? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.